Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the New Me podcast. Today's episode is for any woman standing in this place between her separation or divorce and her new life, this gap between her old, known, familiar life and the unknown, the unfamiliar, the new chapter that she's longing for. When you're in this space, that moment, it feels both terrifying and wide open. I think it's really exciting, but it can feel like your whole system is on fight or flight mode. Yeah, this moment, we're going to talk about that today. And specifically, I want to talk about the difference between the clever way women start over versus the default way that many of us just fall into without even realizing it. So let's dive in. When my marriage ended, I really believed that that was the hardest part, getting that divorce paper signed and finally being free. But soon I discovered that I was wrong. The hardest part was the after, the figuring out what's next part, the having to make all the decisions by myself suddenly part, having your entire world wide open, but also having no clue where you're going with it part. It's like hitting that restart button for your life, but without even having the option to choose when that happens. Maybe you felt that too. The thing about being in this place is that everything happens all at once. Not only you are leaving your marriage and your partner, your maybe someone you thought is going to be the love of your life, but you're also leaving everything behind. Your home, your identity, your finances, your routines. It's all up for renegotiation, so to speak. And it's something that you might not realize in the beginning. And because it is so overwhelming, it's also very easy to slip into the default path. And this is why I made this episode as the first real episode of this podcast, because I think it's really important when we're in this moment to really see that it's one of these moments of sliding door moments where you can either choose to be intentional and strategic about where you're going and what you're doing and how your life's projection going to be, or you can just default into the wait and see. And sadly, I have to admit, most women choose the default way, not because they're weak or not smart enough or not capable, just because we have no one to teach us how to do it differently. So when we don't have that proactivity, we just fall into that reactivity mode. And here's what it looks like. You are reacting to whatever life throws at you. You keep managing logistics. You put out your life fires, your emotional fires. You're trying to keep everyone else afloat. And you're telling yourself, I'll figure it out. And you wait. You wait for your next chapter to show itself, sometimes for years. That's the default way. It's more reactive, passive, and it's exhausting. But then there's the clever way. The clever way is intentional. It's proactive. It's the moment you decide, my life's already changing right now. Might as well make it what I want it to become. It's capturing that pivotal moment and designing your way, not by accident, but by design. So I want to talk about the clever way and how you start. What's the first step? The first step of the clever way is when you start with rediscovering yourself. Then the next thing I'm going to talk about is about how you are allowing yourself to want again. And then it's about relearning how to trust yourself. And then the most important step is to take all this insight and turn it into action. So let's go from the beginning and talk about what it means to rediscover yourself. And when you fall into the default way, you're telling yourself, let me just fix all the chaos in my life, external chaos first. And when things calm down, I'll have time to get to myself. But this is not the best way, because the clever way says, if I don't reconnect with myself now, none of that external decisions will feel right. When I finally paused and asked myself, who am I? What do I want? Who am I becoming? Something inside of me shifted. I realized I had to let go of who I used to be, my old me, my married me, but also that panicked, overwhelmed, and post-divorce version of me that I was stuck in fight or flight mode for a long time. And underneath all that, I found a woman who knew her values, knew her energy cues, knew her identity. And this right here is what a clever woman rebuilt from the inside out, because that's where things finally start making sense again. And then the second part of that is to allow yourself to want again. And this is so true for women, especially, because when your world, as you know it, has imploded, even wanting something, anything, can feel dangerous. You feel like if you allow yourself to dream, it's indulgent. If you have any desire, it's selfish or reckless. So the default way is to just shut it all down and tell yourself, let me just get through this week. I don't even know what I want, and I'll figure it out when I'm stable. But clever women let desire be the force in their life and let their desire wake us right back. They ask, what excites me now? What brings me joy or aliveness or pleasure? What kind of mornings do I want to wake up to? What do I want my money, my time, my relationships to look like? And this moment here, when we allow ourselves to want again, and it's not an overnight shift, it takes practice. It takes telling our subconscious that it's safe to want again and putting a container to express those wants so that you can dig deep and find those wants that are behind the external material ones, if you know what I mean. And when you start practicing that, this is where momentum returns. When you allow yourself to imagine a fuller, brighter chapter, that's when it starts forming in real life. The third phase is to learn or relearn how to trust yourself. And this might be a very hard but very important point to make, especially again for us women who's been in long-term relationships for years or decades and got used to minimizing ourselves, got swallowed into our relationship and can't trust our own voice anymore. Maybe can't even hear it anymore. And right after divorce, it is really easy to fall into that default pattern of doubting everything. And I think this for me was a real struggle just to make all these decisions by myself. After years that I spent making all the choices as part of the we, I kind of forgot how to hear my own voice and trust my own opinion and make decisions. It felt scary, it felt high stakes. And part of that was losing my own judgment, my own instincts, and my own wisdom. Clever women do something different. They intentionally learn how to trust their own inner voice, which can be very gently and slowly at first, but then boldly, and it's a process. But they stop letting fear be the single vote on their future. They stop giving away their authority, and they start choosing based on alignment with their own values and not the approval and validation of other people. So here's the thing. Self-trust, it's not a one-day breakthrough. It comes from a million tiny decisions made consistently that finally gives us our confidence back. Now, the final stage, the fourth step of the way to cleverly start over is to turn all that insight into action. And this is critical because we can look within and do the work and learn about ourselves and what we want and still nothing happens if we don't put it into action. And most of us aren't stuck because we don't know what to do. Because deep down we do know, but we're stuck because we don't act on what we know. And the default way is full of maybe we'll do it later, maybe not moving so much, being in hesitation mode. And the clever way says, all right, I've rediscovered myself. I know what I want. Now let's do something about it. Because clever women take aligned steps, not dramatic, huge steps that are unsustainable, but just move one little step at a time to the right direction with clarity. And that's how your rebuild becomes something real. Why do I know that this clever way actually works? I didn't do everything perfectly, far from it, but I did it honestly. And when I finally stopped waiting for things to settle down, I realized that my future wasn't just going to happen on its own. I had to build it. And I really understood the sequence: rediscover, desire, and aligned action. I rebuilt my life in more confident and faster than I ever imagined. It works for me, and it works for women that I support, and it can work for you too. I think to sum it all up, clever women don't see divorce as a failure. They see it as an inflection point, a moment to choose who they become next. They don't wait for clarity, they create it. They don't keep old versions of themselves, they rediscover their new one. They don't rebuild their future by accident, they build it on purpose, because the clever way is the intentional way. If you're ready to shift from the default way to the clever way, I created something that can help you begin in a powerful yet gentle and structured way. It's a 15-day self-guided journey to rediscover who you are, what you want, and your next steps, so that you can reclaim your future with clarity and confidence. So you don't have to wait, you don't have to guess, you don't have to rebuild alone. If you want your next chapter to start today with intention, with courage, and with you back in the center of your own life, because this is where you belong, you can join us and click on the link to see more details about the self-guided 15-day journey. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next week.